August 24th, 79 AD, the city of Pompeii is about to vanish from the earth. But tonight, on this final evening, 12,000 people are living their ordinary lives, completely unaware that by tomorrow, their world will be buried under 20 feet of ash. Close your eyes now, let your body relax into your bed, and travel back with me to the last peaceful night in Pompeii. Take a slow, deep breath in and let it out. We're walking through history together, through the streets of an ancient city, on the edge of eternity. You don't need to stay awake for this journey. In fact, let the story carry you gently into sleep. Let's begin. The city at sunset. It's late afternoon in Pompeii. The sun hangs low over the Bay of Naples, painting the sky in shades of deep amber, rose gold, and violet. The city sits nestled at the base of Mount Vesuvius, just 12 miles from the mountain. But the Romans don't know it's a volcano. To them, it's simply a mountain, covered in lush vineyards, olive groves, and dense forests. Pompeii is a city of 12,000 souls, a thriving port town, wealthy from trade in grain, wine, olive oil, and fish sauce. The streets are alive with the sounds of daily life winding down. In the Forum, the central marketplace, merchants are packing up their stalls, rolling up awnings made of striped canvas, stacking unsold pottery carefully in wooden crates, counting bronze and silver coins, sorting them into leather pouches. The Forum is a vast open space, surrounded by temples and public buildings. The Temple of Jupiter stands at the north end, its columns rising imposingly against the sky. The basilica, where legal matters are settled, dominates the western side, and all around, colonnaded porticos provide shade during the hot days. Now, as the sun sets, the white marble of the temples glows golden in the fading light. In the public baths, the thermae, men and women, soak in heated pools, washing away the dust and sweat of the day. The baths are separated by gender, men in one section, women in another. In the men's caldarium, the hot room's steam rises from the pool. The water is heated by furnaces beneath the floor, creating a constant warmth. Men recline in the water, talking about business, politics, gossip. In the women's section, mothers bathe with their young daughters, teaching them the rituals of cleanliness and beauty, scraping oil and dirt from their skin with curved bronze tools called strigils, rinsing in the warm water, emerging clean and refreshed. Throughout the city, in hundreds of homes, slaves and servants are lighting oil lamps as the shadows grow longer. The lamps are simple clay vessels filled with olive oil, with a small wick protruding from one end. Some are fancier, made of bronze shaped like animals or mythological figures. The flames flicker and dance, casting warm, golden light. The air is warm. It's late August, the height of summer in southern Italy. The Mediterranean heat still hangs heavy, even as evening approaches. The smell of fresh bread drifts from the bakeries lining the streets. There are more than 30 bakeries in Pompeii, each one producing hundreds of round loaves every day. The scent of roasted meat and olive oil wafts from the thermopolia. These are the ancient Roman fast food shops, where workers and travelers grab a quick meal. Counters lined with large clay pots sunk into the stone, filled with hot stews, beans, lentils, wine. Children run through the narrow streets, laughing, their voices echoing off the stone walls, chasing each other in games of tag, rolling wooden hoops with sticks, playing with leather balls stuffed with rags. A dog barks somewhere in the distance, its voice sharp in the cooling air. A cart rattles over the cobblestones, wheels creaking under the weight of amphorae filled with wine from the countryside. This is a city that feels permanent, solid, eternal. The buildings are made of volcanic stone and brick, covered in painted plaster. The streets are paved with large blocks of dark basalt, fitted together so precisely that not even a blade of grass can grow between them. Pompeii has stood here for over 700 years. It has survived wars between Rome and rival cities, political upheavals as emperors rose and fell, earthquakes that shook the ground and cracked walls. The people who live here expect it to stand for 700 more, perhaps 1,000, perhaps forever. Let's walk through the streets together now. Imagine yourself there. Feel the smooth, warm cobblestones beneath your sandaled feet. The stones have been worn smooth by thousands upon thousands of footsteps over the centuries. On either side of you, buildings rise 2 and 3 stories high. The walls are painted in rich, vibrant colors: Pompeian red, a deep ochre made from iron oxide, bright yellows created from minerals containing lead and antimony, deep blues, rare and expensive, made from crushed lapis lazuli, greens from malachite and copper compounds. Some walls are decorated with elaborate frescoes, garden scenes, with birds perched on flowering branches, painted so realistically you almost expect them to sing. Mythological tales, gods and goddesses in dramatic poses, frozen in moments of passion, rage, or triumph. Geometric patterns, creating the illusion of marble panels and architectural columns that aren't really there. You pass a public fountain, one of more than 40 scattered throughout the city. Water flows constantly from the mouth of a carved stone lion, the water cool and clear. The fountain is never empty, fed by an aqueduct that runs from the mountains many miles away, bringing fresh water to the city every day. A woman stands at the fountain, filling a large clay amphora. The vessel is nearly as tall as she is, heavy even when empty. She balances it expertly on her hip, the weight supported by a lifetime of practice. She glances at you briefly as you pass, her eyes dark and unreadable, then returns to her task. Further down the street, you pass a bakery. The door stands wide open, and you can see inside. A large stone oven dominates the back wall, its domed shape glowing with radiant heat. The opening at the front glows orange-red from the fire within. Loaves of bread are stacked on wooden shelves along the walls, round, crusty, marked with the baker's stamp pressed into the dough before baking. Each loaf is scored into 8 sections, making it easy to tear and share. The baker himself stands at a wooden counter, his hands and forearms dusted white with flour. He's kneading dough, the rhythmic pushing and folding, over and over and over. His movements are automatic, perfected by years of daily repetition. His apprentice, a young boy of maybe 12, is sweeping flour from the floor with a bundle of twigs bound together to form a rough broom. The smell of fresh bread is intoxicating, warm and yeasty and comforting. Next door, a wine merchant is rolling amphorae into his shop for the night. The tall clay jars are sealed with cork stoppers and covered with wax to keep the wine fresh. Each one holds about 6 gallons of wine from the vineyards that cover the slopes of Vesuvius. The volcanic soil is incredibly fertile. It makes the grapes grow especially sweet and flavorful. Pompeian wine is famous throughout the Roman Empire, exported as far as Gaul and Britannia. Everywhere you look, there is life, voices calling to each other from doorways and windows, laughter echoing from inside homes, the clatter of pottery as dishes are washed and stacked, the bleating of a goat being led home by a young shepherd, the animal protesting with every step. But as the sun sinks lower toward the horizon, the noise begins to soften. People are heading home. The workday is ending. Shopkeepers pull wooden shutters across their entrances, securing them with iron bars that slot into holes in the stone. Families gather inside their homes, preparing for the evening meal, for conversation, for rest. The house of the Veti. Let's step inside one of the grandest homes in Pompeii. The house of the Veti. This villa belongs to 2 wealthy brothers, former slaves, who earned their freedom and made their fortune in wine trading. Aulus Vettius Restitutus and Aulus Vettius Conviva. You approach the entrance, a heavy wooden door reinforced with iron bands and studs. You push it open and step inside. Immediately, you enter the fosses, a narrow entrance corridor. The walls here are painted with images of good fortune and protection. A serpent, symbol of the household gods, the Lares who watch over the family. A phallus, symbol of prosperity and protection against the evil eye, Nalokio. The corridor opens into the atrium. And what an atrium it is. The floor is covered in intricate black and white mosaics, geometric patterns radiating outward from the center like ripples on a pond, interlocking squares and circles, meanders and chevrons, each tiny tile placed by hand, thousands upon thousands of them, creating mesmerizing designs that seem to shift as you walk across them. In the center of the atrium sits the impluvium, a shallow rectangular pool designed to collect rainwater falling through the opening in the roof above. The water is perfectly still, like polished glass reflecting the evening sky. The ceiling is open in the center, a rectangular opening called the compluvium. Through it, you can see the sky above, now painted in shades of deep pink, orange, purple, and indigo as the sun disappears beyond the horizon. The walls surrounding the atrium are covered floor to ceiling with magnificent frescoes. On one wall, Cupids and Psyches, little winged figures, engage in various trades and crafts. Some work as goldsmiths, hammering at tiny anvils. Others make perfume, pressing flowers in small presses. Still others bake bread in miniature ovens. The detail is exquisite, each tiny figure painted with incredible care and skill. On another wall, dramatic mythological scenes unfold. Hercules strangling the serpents sent to kill him as an infant, his tiny hands gripping their necks. Pentheus being torn apart by Maenads, the frenzied female followers of Dionysus, in punishment for spying on their sacred rites. Daedalus presenting the wooden cow to Pasiphae, beginning the chain of events that will lead to the birth of the Minotaur. The paintings are vivid, almost three-dimensional, using techniques of shading and perspective that make the figures seem to leap from the walls. In the corners of the atrium, bronze statues stand on marble pedestals, gods and heroes rendered in gleaming metal, Mercury with his winged sandals and caduceus staff, Apollo with his lyre, god of music and prophecy, Venus, the patron goddess of Pompeii herself, rising from the sea foam. A young slave girl moves through the space, lighting oil lamps for the evening. She wears a simple tunic of undyed linen, belted at the waist with a woven cord. Her hair is pulled back simply, no elaborate styling for a slave. Her movements are practiced, efficient, graceful. She's done this task every evening for years. She places lamps in niches carved into the walls, on small bronze stands designed specifically to hold them. Around the edge of the impluvium, where their light will reflect in the water and double, each lamp is beautifully crafted, even the simplest ones. Some are basic terracotta vessels, functional and plain. Others are elaborate bronze pieces shaped like animals, ships, or mythological creatures. A lamp in the form of a dolphin, another shaped like a ship with billowing sails, one depicting the head of Medusa, her serpent hair writhing. The flames flicker and dance, their warm light reflecting in the still water of the impluvium. The reflections shimmer and waver, creating patterns of light and shadow on the painted walls. You can hear the gentle sound of water trickling somewhere nearby, a small fountain in the peristyle garden beyond, constantly flowing. The air is fragrant with the scent of flowers planted in the garden. Roses, their perfume heavy and sweet. Jasmine climbing the walls, releasing its intoxicating scent. Lavender, purple, and aromatic. And something else, sweeter still, perhaps honeysuckle or myrtle blooming in the gathering dusk. A servant crosses the atrium, moving silently on bare feet. He carries a large bronze tray laden with food, heading toward the triclinium, the dining room. He moves with the practiced invisibility of one who has spent his life in service, there but not there, seen but not noticed. Let's follow him into the dining room, the triclinium. The triclinium is a masterpiece of Roman interior design and decoration. 3 long couches are arranged in a U shape around a low central table. The couches are called kline in Greek, from which we get our English word, recline. Each couch is large enough for 3 people to lie side by side. They're covered in rich fabrics imported from across the empire. Deep crimson wool from Phoenicia, dyed with precious murex shells. Gold-embroidered silk from distant China, brought along the Silk Road at enormous expense. Cushions stuffed with soft wool and goose down, covered in patterned fabrics. Romans don't sit upright to eat as we do today. They recline on their left elbow, propped up by cushions, leaving their right hand free to reach for food. It's a posture of leisure, of wealth, of social status. Only slaves, children, and the very poor sit upright to eat. To recline is to be civilized, Roman, refined. The walls of the triclinium are painted to create elaborate illusions. Trompe-l'oeil columns appear to support a painted architectural facade. Marble panels that don't actually exist. Windows opening onto painted gardens filled with flowers and birds. The effect is dizzying, beautiful, making the room seem larger and grander than it truly is. The ceiling is coffered, divided into square sections, each painted with intricate designs. Rosettes and geometric patterns. Small mythological scenes, all in colors that still seem vibrant even in the lamplight. The table is being set now by several servants working in coordinated silence. They place dishes of food with careful precision, arranging them artfully. Large bowls of olives, black and green, glossy with oil, seasoned with crushed garlic and herbs. Fresh bread, still warm from the oven, crusty on the outside, soft and airy within. The round loaves are already torn into sections, making them easy to share. A wooden board holds several types of cheese, some fresh and creamy, made that very morning, others aged for months, hard and crumbly, studded with salt crystals that crunch between the teeth. Grapes purple and green, arranged in a bronze bowl, so polished you can see your reflection in it. Figs, split open to reveal their sweet pink flesh, like tiny flowers. Dates from North Africa, sticky with natural sugar, incredibly sweet. A large platter holds fish, the centerpiece of the meal. Red mullet caught this very morning in the Bay of Naples by fishermen who bring their catch to the forum at dawn. The fish have been grilled over charcoal, the skin crispy and slightly charred, the flesh tender and flaky. They're drizzled with garum, the fermented fish sauce that Romans adore, salty and pungent and full of savory umami flavor. Another platter, even more elaborate, holds roasted peacock, a delicacy reserved for the wealthiest households. The bird has been roasted and then carefully reassembled. Its iridescent tail feathers are arranged artfully around the roasted meat, creating a display that's as much art as food. Vegetables, too, though they're considered less important than meat and fish. Roasted onions, sweet and caramelized from long cooking. Boiled leeks dressed with olive oil and a splash of vinegar. A salad of lettuce and arugula, the greens crisp and fresh, dressed simply with oil, vinegar, and salt. And wine, of course, the lifeblood of Roman dining. Tall ceramic amphorae are brought in by slaves, their pointed bottoms designed to be placed in iron stands or buried in sand to keep them stable and upright. The wine is from the family's own vineyard on the slopes of Vesuvius, deep red and full-bodied, made from grapes that absorbed the rich minerals of the volcanic soil. The wine will be mixed with water before serving, as is the Roman custom. To drink wine undiluted, unmixed, is considered barbaric, something only drunkards and uncivilized barbarians would do. The ratio varies, sometimes equal parts wine and water, sometimes more water than wine, depending on the quality of the wine and the formality of the occasion. The master of the house, Aulus Vettius Restitutus, enters the triclinium now. He's a man in his early 50s with graying hair cut short in the Roman fashion. His face is weathered but kind, lined with the marks of a life spent outdoors in vineyards and markets conducting business. Once he was a slave, but through intelligence, hard work, and shrewd business decisions, he earned his freedom. Then he earned his fortune. Now he's one of the wealthiest men in Pompeii, respected, influential, a model of Roman social mobility. He reclines on the central couch, the lectus medius, the place of honor reserved for the host. His brother Conviva joins him, taking a place on the left couch. Conviva is younger, in his mid-40s, with dark hair just beginning to show threads of silver. Several guests arrive, invited for the evening's entertainment. A local magistrate, a duumvir, one of the two annually elected leaders of the city, a fellow merchant, a trader in olive oil, with whom Aulus has done business for years, a poet, young and ambitious, who's been making a name for himself in Neapolis, what we know as Naples, and who hopes for patronage from wealthy men like these. They recline on the couches, settling in for an evening of food, wine, and conversation, the three great pleasures of Roman life. The talk begins with business, as it always does among merchants. The price of grain in Rome this season, whether it's worth investing in a shipment from Egypt, the quality of this year's olive harvest, which has been excellent thanks to good weather. Then the conversation turns to politics. Gossip from the capital, news of the emperor's latest pronouncements, speculation about who might be appointed to important positions. The magistrate shares some inside information, speaking in low tones about disputes in the city council, rivalries between families, accusations of corruption that may or may not be true. Someone mentions the small earthquake tremor felt just yesterday afternoon. Several people felt it. The ground shook for just a few seconds. Pottery rattled on shelves. A few loose roof tiles clattered to the street. Aulus waves it off with a casual gesture. Earthquakes are common here, he says. They happen all the time, sometimes several in a single month. There was a major one 17 years ago, in the year 62, during the reign of Nero. It caused significant damage. Many buildings collapsed, including parts of this very house, but they rebuilt, stronger than before, better than before, more beautiful than before. That's what Romans do, Aulus says. They rebuild, they endure, they persevere. The conversation moves on to lighter topics. The upcoming gladiatorial games scheduled for the amphitheater next month. Which fighters will compete? Who is favored to win? Whether the editor, the sponsor of the games, will be generous enough to provide exotic animals for the beast hunts. Everyone loves the games, the spectacle, the drama, the blood and skill and courage. The poet is invited to recite some of his work. He's been working on a series of verses about Venus and her son Cupid, about love, passion, desire, longing. He recites in a clear voice, his words flowing smoothly, his meters perfect. The verses are elegant, if perhaps not particularly original, but they're pleasant to hear and the guests appreciate them. They applaud politely when he finishes. Aulus compliments his skill and hints that he might commission a work, a poem, celebrating the recent renovation of this house. The poet's eyes light up with hope and gratitude. Wine is poured from the amphorae into elegant glass cups, thin and delicate, imported from workshops in Syria. The wine is mixed with water by a slave using a large bronze mixing bowl, and poured again and again. The evening settles into a comfortable rhythm. Conversation flows, laughter rises, food is eaten, savored, enjoyed. This is the good life, the Roman life. Odium, leisure, the highest pursuit of civilized people. The peristyle garden. Let's step away from the dining room now and into the peristyle garden at the back of the house. This is the private garden, the green heart of the home, reserved for the family and their closest friends. A rectangular courtyard surrounded by columns on all four sides. The columns are painted in bright, cheerful colors: red, yellow, blue, green, creating a vibrant, joyful space that seems to glow even in the dimming light. In the center of the garden is a large rectangular pool. Deeper than the impluvium in the atrium, this is a decorative feature, not functional. The water has been dyed a brilliant turquoise blue using copper compounds dissolved in the water. It creates an otherworldly effect, as if the pool is filled with liquid sky. Around the pool, the garden is densely planted with flowers, herbs, shrubs, and small trees. Roses grow in profusion, their blooms deep red, soft pink, and creamy white. The petals are fully open now, releasing their heavy, intoxicating scent into the evening air. Jasmine vines climb the walls and columns, their small white flowers glowing faintly in the gathering dusk. The scent is sweet, almost overwhelming, mixing with the roses to create an intoxicating perfume. Lavender grows in neat rows, its purple flower spikes standing upright. The scent is sharper, cleaner, cutting through the sweeter floral notes. Rosemary bushes fill one corner, their needle-like leaves releasing their distinctive aroma when brushed against. The smell is sharp, resinous, almost medicinal, but pleasant. Fruit trees grow in large terracotta pots positioned around the garden. A lemon tree, its branches heavy with golden fruit that glows like small suns. A fig tree, its broad leaves rustling softly in the gentle evening breeze. A pomegranate tree, its fruit just beginning to ripen, hard green spheres that will turn deep red in another month. Small marble statues are placed strategically throughout the garden, creating focal points and adding to the beauty. Cherubs, plump and playful, carved in white marble, nymphs, graceful and delicate, seeming to dance among the flowers. A small fountain featuring a young boy wrestling with a dolphin, water spouting from the dolphin's mouth in a continuous stream. The sound of trickling water is constant, soothing, hypnotic. It fills the garden with gentle music, a counterpoint to the more distant sounds from beyond the walls. It mingles with the evening sounds from the city outside, distant voices, soft and indistinct, the call of a bird settling into its roost for the night, the far-off bark of a dog answering another dog somewhere across the city. The sky above is deepening moment by moment, from purple to indigo to the first true darkness of night. The first stars are appearing, tiny points of silver light against the darkening canvas of the sky. Venus, the evening star, brightest of all, hanging low in the west. Then Jupiter, higher in the sky, steady and bright. Then more and more, until the sky is dusted with them. You sit on a marble bench beside the blue pool. The stone is cool beneath you, smooth from years of use. Your hands rest on the edge, feeling the polished surface. You can see your reflection in the still water of the pool, and above it, the reflection of the emerging stars. The water is so still that the reflections are perfect, like a mirror, creating the illusion that the sky extends downward forever. A moth flutters past, drawn by one of the oil lamps that have been lit around the garden. Its wings are pale, almost translucent in the lamplight. It circles the flame once, twice, 3 times, dancing in the warm currents of air rising from the flame. Then it flies away into the darkness, disappearing among the flowers. Here, in this quiet space, surrounded by beauty and peace, time seems to slow down, almost to stop. The world beyond the walls of this garden fades away. The city, the empire, the cares of daily life, all of it seems distant, unimportant. There is only this moment, this garden, this peace, this beauty. You breathe in the scented air, you listen to the trickling water, you watch the stars emerge one by one, and you feel a deep sense of contentment, a feeling that this, right here, right now, is enough, is everything. The Fuller's Workshop. Let's leave the grand villa now and visit a different part of the city, a more industrial district where craftsmen and tradesmen work. We're going to the workshop of a fuller, a man named Stephanus. Fullers are the laundrymen and dry cleaners of the Roman world. They clean, bleach, whiten, and treat cloth and finished garments. It's essential work, unglamorous but necessary, and those who do it well can make a comfortable living. The workshop is a large, open space fronting onto the street. During the day, it would have been busy with workers, filled with the sounds and smells of the trade. But now, as evening falls, the work is done for the day. Against one wall stand a row of large stone basins, each about waist deep. These are treading vats, used for the initial cleaning of cloth. Earlier today, workers stood in these vats, treading on clothes and fabrics submerged in a mixture of water and urine. Yes, urine. It sounds unpleasant to modern ears, but the Romans understood that the ammonia in urine is excellent for breaking down oils and grease in fabric. Public urinals throughout the city collect urine, which is then sold to fullers for this purpose. The work is hard, the smell is strong, but it's honest labor and it pays. Now, as evening falls, the vats have been emptied and rinsed clean. The cleaned clothes and fabrics have been hung to dry on wooden frames set up in the courtyard at the back of the workshop. They'll be left overnight, and by morning, they'll be dry and ready for the next stage of treatment. Stephanus himself sits on a wooden stool in the corner of the workshop, going over his accounts by the light of an oil lamp. He's a man in his mid-40s, wiry and strong from years of physical labor. His arms are corded with muscle. His hands are stained from the dyes and chemicals he works with, the skin rough and calloused. But his expression is content, satisfied. Business has been good, very good. The wealthy citizens of Pompeii value their appearance, their fine togas and tunics and stolas. They need someone to keep them clean, bright, properly treated. Stephanus provides that service and provides it well, and charges accordingly. He saved enough money to expand the business, to hire more workers, to buy more equipment, perhaps even to open a second location in another part of the city. His son, a sturdy boy of 14, is sweeping the floor with a rough broom made of bound twigs. He pushes the day's accumulated dirt and debris toward the street, where it will be washed away by tomorrow's street cleaning. His daughter, 12 years old, brings him a cup of watered wine and a piece of bread. She sets them down beside him on a small wooden table, careful not to disturb his scrolls and wax tablets. He looks up, smiles at her, touches her cheek gently. "Thank you, daughter." She smiles back and returns to the back room where her mother is preparing the evening meal. In that small room, barely more than a closet, Stephanus's wife is cooking over a small brazier. A simple stew of lentils and vegetables, seasoned with garlic, onions, and dried herbs. The smell wafts through the workshop, warm and savory and homey. It mingles with the lingering chemical smells of the fuller's trade, creating an odd but not unpleasant combination. Soon, when the accounts are finished, they'll close up the workshop. Stephanus will secure the heavy wooden doors with iron bars. Then they'll go upstairs to their living quarters above the shop. They'll eat together as a family at a simple wooden table. They'll talk about the day's work, about customers, about money earned and money owed. They'll make plans for tomorrow, for next week, for the future. And then they'll go to bed, as they always do, in the rooms above their livelihood, sleeping soundly, secure in the knowledge that their business is solid, their family is together, their future is bright. Step back outside now into the streets of Pompeii after dark. The city has transformed completely as night has fallen. Most of the shops are closed now, their wooden shutters pulled tight and secured with iron bars. Most families have retreated indoors behind their walls and doors. But the city isn't entirely quiet. Life continues, just more subdued, more intimate. A group of young men, perhaps 5 or 6 of them, stumbles out of a tavern on the corner. They're laughing loudly, their voices echoing off the stone walls and bouncing down the narrow street. They've been drinking for hours since the workday ended. One of them is singing, badly and off-key, a popular drinking song about love and wine and beautiful women. His friends join in on the chorus, equally off-key, their voices ragged but enthusiastic. They weave their way down the street, arms draped around each other's shoulders, for support and camaraderie. They laugh at jokes that probably aren't funny. They make grand sweeping gestures that nearly knock them off their feet. They're young, carefree, invincible, or so they feel tonight. A night watchman passes by, moving in the opposite direction. He carries a torch, the flames casting dancing shadows on the walls as he walks. The light creates a bubble of visibility around him, pushing back the darkness. He's making his rounds, as he does every night, checking that shop doors are properly locked and secured, making sure no fires have been left unattended, no lamps left burning where they might tip over and cause disaster. He eyes the group of young men with mild disapproval, his expression stern. But he says nothing. They're harmless, just boys letting off steam after a long day's work. As long as they don't cause trouble, he'll leave them be. He continues on his way, the torch flame leaving a trail of smoke in the air behind him. Here and there along the street, oil lamps glow in windows, small points of warm, golden, flickering light against the darkness. Inside those homes, you can imagine families finishing their evening meals, parents and children gathered around simple tables, eating bread and cheese and olives, drinking watered wine, talking about their days. Children are being put to bed in small rooms, tucked under wool blankets. Parents are sharing quiet conversation before sleep, discussing plans and worries and hopes. The moon is rising now over the rooftops. Nearly full, swollen and bright, it bathes the entire city in pale silver light. The moonlight is so bright that you can see clearly without a torch. The shadows are sharp and dramatic, cut cleanly by the strong moonlight. Every stone, every column, every jutting roof beam, every decorative cornice is clearly defined in the silvery glow. The streets are paved with large blocks of dark basalt, volcanic rock quarried from the earth nearby. In the bright moonlight, the stones almost seem to glow with an inner light, as if they remember the fire from which they came. You can see the deep grooves worn into the stone by countless cartwheels over the years and decades and centuries. Ruts cut so deep that in some places they're several inches into the stone. At regular intervals, large raised stepping stones cross the width of the street, 3 or 4 stones placed in a line, raised a foot above the street level. These allow pedestrians to cross from one side of the street to the other without stepping down into the street itself. When it rains, and the rains here can be torrential, the streets become channels for runoff water. They can be filled with rushing water, mud, and waste swept from the gutters. The stepping stones allow people to cross without getting wet or dirty, and they're spaced just far enough apart to allow cartwheels to pass between them. Ingenious Roman engineering, practical and elegant. As you walk slowly through the quiet streets, the air has cooled significantly from the heat of the day. A breeze drifts in from the Bay of Naples, carrying the scent of the sea. You can smell the salt, sharp and clean, the slight tang of seaweed washed up on the shore. You can smell wood smoke from the evening cooking fires, now mostly banked for the night, but still sending thin trails of smoke into the air. The earthy scent of dust and stone, sun-warmed walls now cooling in the night. And somewhere, carried on the breeze, the sweet smell of night-blooming flowers, opening their petals to release their perfume under the moon. The house of the tragic poet. Let's visit one more home before the night grows too deep. The house of the tragic poet, a more modest villa than the house of the Vettii, but beautiful in its own way. The entrance is marked by a famous mosaic, though of course we don't know it's famous yet. Set into the floor just inside the doorway is an image of a fierce dog, chained, teeth bared. Above the dog, the words Cave Canem are spelled out in small tiles. Beware of the dog. It's meant to be both a warning and a joke. A playful piece of art for visitors to see as they enter, making them smile, even as they're being cautioned. Inside, the atrium is smaller than in the grand villas, but it's elegantly proportioned. Everything is in perfect balance, harmonious, pleasing to the eye. The walls are painted with scenes from Greek tragedies, the plays of Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, hence the house's modern name given to it when it was excavated centuries from now. The homeowner, whose actual name is lost to history, clearly has a deep love of theater and literature. The frescoes show actors in elaborate masks, the exaggerated expressions visible even from a distance. Tragic heroes and heroines frozen in dramatic poses. Moments of terrible decision, of suffering, of catharsis. Medea contemplating the murder of her own children in revenge for her husband's betrayal. Orestes pursued by the Furies, the vengeful spirits who torment him for killing his mother. Oedipus discovering the terrible truth of his identity and fate. The paintings are beautiful but unsettling. They speak of the dark side of human nature, of fate, of the thin line between civilization and chaos. In the tablinum, the study or office at the back of the atrium, the master of the house sits at a small wooden desk. He's a man of middle age, perhaps 45 or 50. His hair is graying at the temples, his face lined but kind. He might be a teacher, educating the children of wealthy families in literature and rhetoric, or perhaps a minor city official, handling administrative matters for the local government. Scrolls are stacked neatly on shelves, built into the walls, works of poetry by Virgil, Ovid, Horace, philosophical treatises by Cicero, Seneca, historical works by Livy and Tacitus. He's reading by lamplight now, squinting slightly at the text. His eyesight isn't what it used to be. The small letters on the papyrus blur together if he's not careful, but he's deeply engrossed in what he's reading, lost in the words, in the ideas, in the beauty of language skillfully used. His wife enters the room quietly, moving with practiced silence so as not to disturb him. She carries a small cup of warm, spiced wine, sweetened with honey flavored with cinnamon and cloves. She sets it beside him on the desk without a word. He looks up, his concentration broken but his expression soft. He smiles at her, reaches out, touches her hand briefly in thanks. She smiles back, a look of deep affection passing between them. After 20 years of marriage, words aren't always necessary. She leaves him to his reading and returns to the atrium. In the small peristyle garden beyond, their two children are playing one last game before bedtime. A girl of about 8, serious and thoughtful, her dark hair pulled back with a ribbon. A boy of 5, energetic and curious, always moving, always asking questions. They're playing with knuckle bones, small bones from sheep or goats, used as dice or jacks in various games. The bones are smooth and worn from much use. The girl is trying to teach her younger brother the rules of a particular game. He doesn't quite understand yet, his young mind struggling to grasp the concept. But he's trying hard, his face scrunched up in concentration, determined to figure it out. Their mother watches from the doorway, leaning against the frame, her arms crossed, a soft smile on her face. She loves these moments, watching her children play together, seeing the bond between them, the patience of the older sister, the determination of the younger brother. Soon, very soon, she'll call them in. They'll wash their faces and hands in a bronze basin filled with cool water. They'll put on their sleeping tunics, simple undyed linen garments. She'll tuck them into their beds, small wooden frames with rope supports and thin wool mattresses. She'll pull light blankets over them, tucking the edges in carefully, and she'll sing to them a lullaby her own mother sang to her when she was small, a simple melody, soothing words about stars and sleep and safety. For now, though, she lets them play a few minutes longer, savoring this ordinary moment. Her children safe, happy, together. Her husband absorbed in his books nearby. Her home peaceful and secure. This is happiness, she thinks. Not grand gestures or dramatic events. Just this quiet, ordinary evening with the people she loves most in the world. The Temple of Apollo. As the night deepens, Let's visit one of the sacred spaces of Pompeii, the Temple of Apollo, one of the oldest and most important religious sites in the city. The temple stands on the west side of the Forum, surrounded by a portico of tall columns. During the day, it would be busy with worshippers bringing offerings, priests performing rituals, pilgrims seeking guidance from the god. But now, well after sunset, the temple is quiet, almost empty. Only a single priest remains, an old man named Marcus Epictetus. He's been a servant of Apollo for more than 40 years. He moves slowly through the sacred space, his sandals making soft scraping sounds on the marble floor. In the center of the temple precinct stands a bronze statue of Apollo himself, larger than life, gleaming even in the dim light. The god is depicted as an archer, his bow held loosely, his expression distant and eternal. Smaller statues and altars surround the main statue. Diana, Apollo's twin sister, goddess of the hunt. Latona, their mother. Various lesser deities and spirits associated with the Apollonian cult. Marcus lights incense at the main altar. He uses a small torch to ignite the precious resins and herbs. The smoke rises in delicate spirals, carrying the scent of myrrh, frankincense, and cinnamon into the night air. The smell is rich, exotic, sacred. He places fresh offerings beside the incense. A small cake made of wheat flour and honey, baked this morning specifically for this purpose. A handful of grain, representing the harvest and the earth's bounty. A cup of wine, poured carefully so none spills. A sprig of laurel, Apollo's sacred plant, freshly cut from the tree growing in the temple garden. Then Marcus begins his evening prayer. His voice is low and reverent, practiced from decades of repetition. O Apollo, far shooter, Lord of light, God of prophecy and healing, watch over the city which honors you. Protect its people from harm. Grant them health, prosperity, and wisdom. Guide our leaders in their decisions. Bless our crops and our commerce. Keep the darkness at bay. He's prayed this prayer, or variations of it, thousands upon thousands of times. Every evening for 40 years. Every morning, too. And at noon. And during festivals. And on holy days. The words are so familiar, they flow without conscious thought. They're a part of him, woven into his very being, a connection to something larger and more eternal than himself, a thread linking him to the divine, to the gods, to the cosmic order that holds the universe together. When the prayer is finished, he stands in silence for a long moment, gazing up at the bronze statue of Apollo. The god's face is serene, beautiful, unchanging. The same face Marcus has looked upon every day for 4 decades. A face that will remain unchanged long after Marcus is gone. Long after everyone he knows is gone. Long after Pompeii itself is. But no, Marcus doesn't think such thoughts. Pompeii is eternal, or as near to eternal as human things can be. The temple has stood for centuries. It will stand for centuries more. He feels a deep sense of peace, of connection, of purpose. He extinguishes all the lamps except one, which he leaves burning beside the altar, the sacred flame, which is never allowed to go out completely. Then he gathers his things, pulls his cloak around his shoulders against the cooling night air, and makes his way slowly toward the temple exit. His home is nearby, a small room attached to the temple complex, simple, austere, containing little more than a bed, a chair, a table, a few personal possessions. But it's enough for him, more than enough. He's devoted his life to the service of the god. He has no regrets. The gladiator barracks. In another part of the city, near the amphitheater, stands a large building that serves as the gladiator barracks. This is where the fighters live and train when they're in Pompeii for the games. Some are slaves forced to fight. Others are free men who've chosen this dangerous profession, lured by the promise of fame, fortune, and the adoration of the crowd. Tonight, a group of gladiators is here, preparing for games scheduled for next month. They finish their evening meal, a substantial one designed to build muscle and strength. Barley porridge, beans, dried fruit, sometimes meat, though not always. Now they're relaxing in the courtyard, enjoying the cool evening air after a long day of brutal training. Some sit on benches, talking quietly among themselves, discussing technique, sharing stories of past victories, boasting about scars and near-death experiences. Others are having their injuries tended by the medicus, the physician who cares for the gladiators. He cleans cuts, applies salves to bruises, wraps sprained joints with linen bandages. One gladiator, a Thracian fighter in his late 20s, sits apart from the others. His name is Crispus. He's staring up at the stars, lost in thought. He's thinking about his family, far away in Thrace. His wife and daughter, whom he hasn't seen in 3 years. He was captured in a border skirmish, sold into slavery, trained as a gladiator. If he wins enough fights, if he becomes popular enough, if his owner is generous, he might earn his freedom. The wooden sword, the rudis, the symbol of manumission. Then he could return home, see his family again, hold his daughter, who must be 7 years old now, almost grown. But that's a dream, and he knows it. Most gladiators don't live long enough to earn their freedom. Still, he dreams. What else can he do? Nearby, 2 gladiators are practicing hand-to-hand techniques, even though the official training day is over. They move in slow motion, perfecting their forms, correcting each other's stances. The dedication is impressive. For these men, a single mistake in the arena can mean death, so they practice until every movement is instinctive, automatic, perfect. The barracks overseer, himself a retired gladiator who lost an arm in the arena years ago, watches them with approval. He remembers what it was like, the training, the fear, the roar of the crowd, the sand of the arena stained with blood. He's glad those days are behind him, but he doesn't regret them. They made him who he is. One by one, the gladiators retire to their cells, small rooms barely large enough for a sleeping pallet. Locked from the outside, they're prisoners after all. No matter how well they're fed or trained, they're still slaves. The overseer makes his rounds, checking that all is secure, all is quiet. Then he too retires, leaving the courtyard empty, except for the stars above and the sound of distant waves from the sea. The House of the Faun. There's one more grand villa we should visit tonight. The House of the Faun, the largest and most luxurious private residence in all of Pompeii. It covers an entire city block, nearly 3,000 square meters of opulent living space. The owner is one of the wealthiest men in the city, his fortune built on trade, land ownership, and savvy political connections. The house gets its name from a bronze statue in the atrium. A dancing faun, a mythological creature, half man and half goat, captured mid-dance, his expression joyful, his pose graceful. The statue is a masterpiece, perfectly balanced, seeming to float above its pedestal. But the true treasure of this house lies in the exedra, a large reception room at the back. The floor is covered with an enormous mosaic, one of the largest and most elaborate ever created. The Battle of Issus, depicting Alexander the Great defeating the Persian king Darius III. More than 1.5 million tiny colored tiles create this masterpiece. The detail is astonishing. You can see the expressions on the soldiers' faces, the terror of the horses, the dust and chaos of battle, the desperate flight of Darius and his chariot. It took skilled artisans years to create this single floor, and the owner walks across it every day, barely noticing its magnificence anymore. Such is the nature of wealth and familiarity. Tonight, the house is quiet. The owner is traveling, conducting business in Neapolis. Only the household slaves remain, and they've retired early. The atrium is lit by a few oil lamps, their flames flickering in the still air. The dancing faun seems almost alive in the wavering light, his bronze skin gleaming, his pose suggesting motion as if at any moment he might complete his dance and leap from his pedestal. In the peristyle gardens, there are two of them in this house. Fountains trickle softly. The sound echoes gently through the empty colonnades. Plants grow in profusion: roses, jasmine, myrtle, laurel, lemon and fig trees in massive terracotta pots, herbs planted in neat rows, rosemary and thyme and basil. The scent is overwhelming in the best way: rich, layered, intoxicating. A cat, one of several that live in the house to keep mice and rats at bay, pads silently through the garden. It pauses at the edge of a fountain, lapping at the water. Then it continues on its nightly rounds, hunting, patrolling, owning the space as cats do. The house is so large that it feels almost empty even when fully staffed. Tonight, with most of the household elsewhere, it feels like a palace abandoned by gods, beautiful, silent, waiting. The fishermen's return. Let's return now to the shore, to the fisherman we met earlier. Titus has been asleep on the beach for several hours, but now, well past midnight, he stirs. He's learned over a lifetime of fishing to wake at the right time, even without a timepiece. His body knows when it's time to go. He sits up, rubs his eyes, stretches his stiff muscles. The night is cool now, almost cold, and he shivers slightly as he throws off his blanket. The moon has moved across the sky, now high overhead, bathing the beach in brilliant silver light. The sea is calm, almost perfectly flat, reflecting the moon like polished metal. He stands, walks to the water's edge, splashes his face with seawater to wake himself fully. The salt stings his eyes, but it clears his head. He checks his boat, making sure everything is ready. The nets, carefully mended earlier, are neatly coiled. The oars are in place. The small wooden bucket for bailing out water. The leather flask of fresh water for drinking. A piece of bread wrapped in cloth for later. He pushes the boat into the gentle waves. The water is warmer than the air, a curious reversal. It soaks through his tunic as he wades deeper. He climbs into the boat, settles himself on the central bench, fits the oars into the oarlocks, and begins to row. Slow, steady strokes, rhythmic, efficient, a rhythm perfected over decades. The oars dip into the water with barely a splash, pull through, lift, dip again. The boat glides smoothly across the mirror-calm sea. Behind him, Pompeii is mostly dark now, with just a few lights still visible. The city sleeps. Ahead, the open water stretches endlessly. Above, the stars are brilliant, countless, eternal. He rows for perhaps 20 minutes, heading toward his favorite fishing ground. A spot where a rocky outcrop beneath the surface creates currents that attract fish. When he reaches the spot, judging by landmarks on the shore and the feel of the water, he stops rowing, lets the boat drift, prepares his nets, and begins the work he's done every night of his adult life. Casting nets into the dark water, waiting, pulling them in, seeing what the sea has given him. It's a simple life, repetitive, hard, but it's his life, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. Out here on the water, under the stars, he feels connected to something larger, to the sea, to the sky, to the eternal rhythm of nature. He is content. The hours past midnight. The city is deeply asleep now. It's well past midnight, moving toward the darkest hours before dawn, the time when sleep is deepest and dreams are strangest. In the households we visited tonight, all the lamps have been extinguished. The only light comes from the moon, streaming through windows and roof openings, creating pools of silver in dark rooms. Families lie sleeping in their beds, their breathing slow and steady and deep. Some snore softly. Others are utterly silent. Dogs sleep curled in corners, twitching occasionally as they dream of running and hunting. Cats prowl through gardens, their eyes reflecting moonlight, searching for mice and insects. In the grand villa, in the house of the Bedtime, Aulus and his brother and their guests have long since retired. The dinner party ended hours ago. The guests departed to their own homes. The servants cleaned away the remains of the meal and banked the fires and went to their own sleeping quarters. Now Aulus sleeps beside his wife Valeria. Their children rest in nearby rooms. The house is still, peaceful, secure. In the baker's house, Gaius lies beside Livia, holding her close. After 20 years of marriage, they still sleep intertwined, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. Little Claudia sleeps in her small cot, her wooden doll tucked under her arm. She's dreaming, though she won't remember the dream when she wakes. Something about flowers and flying, and her mother's voice singing. In the house of the tragic poet, the scholar sleeps with a scroll still in his hands. He fell asleep reading, as he often does. His wife gently removed the scroll earlier, marked his place, set it aside. She covered him with a blanket and lay down beside him. Their children sleep soundly in the next room, exhausted from play and laughter. In his simple room near the Temple of Apollo, the old priest Marcus Apicius sleeps lightly, as old men do. He wakes several times during the night, each time wondering for a moment where he is. Then memory returns, and he settles back into sleep. He dreams of the temple, of prayers offered under an open sky, of the eternal presence of the gods. In the gladiator barracks, the fighters sleep in their locked cells. Some sleep peacefully, exhausted from training. Others toss and turn, plagued by nightmares of the arena, of blood and sand and screaming crowds. Crispus, the Thracian, dreams of home, of his village in the mountains, of his wife and daughter waiting for him, of freedom. In the house of the faun, the slaves sleep in small rooms, grateful for rest after a long day's work. They'll wake before dawn to begin again, but for now, they rest. On the beach, Titus's wife sleeps alone in their small house. She's used to sleeping without him. Half the nights of her life, he's been out on the water. She doesn't worry anymore. He always comes back. All across Pompeii, 12,000 people rest. Merchants and slaves, soldiers and children, the wealthy and the poor, the old and the young, the powerful and the powerless, all of them, in this moment, equal in sleep. All of them unaware of what tomorrow will bring. All of them trusting that the sun will rise, as it always has, that the city will wake, as it always has. For tonight, there is only peace, only the gentle darkness, only the slow rhythm of breath and heartbeat and dreams. If you were to walk through the streets now, you would hear almost nothing. Perhaps the distant bark of a dog, somewhere on the far side of the city, the hoot of an owl, hunting in the fields beyond the city walls, its cry sharp and eerie, the creak of a wooden shutter moved by a gentle breeze, the scurry of a rat in the gutter, searching for scraps. But mostly just silence. A deep, profound, peaceful silence. The kind that only exists in the hours before dawn, when the world holds its breath, waiting for light. The moon has moved across the sky, its journey nearly complete. It's lower now, approaching the western horizon, ready to set. The stars have rotated too, marking the slow, inexorable passage of time. Some constellations that were high overhead are now sinking toward the west. Others, unseen earlier, are rising in the east. The night is more than 3/4 over. Dawn is not far away now, and still Mount Vesuvius stands silent against the stars. Dark, massive, ancient, waiting, dreams in the deepest night. In these deepest hours, let's visit the dreams of those sleeping. Claudia, the baker's daughter, is dreaming. In her dream, she's walking through a garden, but it's unlike any garden in Pompeii. It's endless, stretching in all directions as far as she can see, filled with flowers more beautiful and more vivid than anything that grows in the real world. The colors are impossible. Purples so deep they're almost black, golds that seem to glow from within, pinks and oranges and blues that shift and change as she looks at them. She walks barefoot through grass that's impossibly soft and cool. Each blade seems to caress her feet as she passes. Butterflies float around her, landing on her outstretched hands. Their wings are like stained glass, catching light that comes from everywhere and nowhere. She laughs, delighted, spinning in circles with her arms outstretched. Her hair flies out around her. Her heart is full of joy, so pure it almost hurts. In the dream, her mother and father are there, though she can't quite see them clearly. They're nearby, watching her, smiling. She can feel their love wrapping around her like a warm blanket. She feels completely safe, completely loved, completely perfectly happy. The sun in her dream is warm but not too hot. The air smells of honey and roses and fresh bread. All the best smells mixed together. She picks a flower, a white lily as large as her hand. She holds it to her nose and breathes in. The scent is overwhelming, sweet and clean and pure. And then, as dreams do, it shifts. She's floating now, rising gently into the air, like a bubble, like a feather caught on a breeze. She's not afraid. It feels natural, right, inevitable. She floats higher and higher, above the garden, above the trees, above everything. Below her, she can see all of Pompeii laid out like a miniature model. The red roofs of the houses, the narrow streets winding between buildings, the forum with its temples, the amphitheater, its oval shape perfect and beautiful, and beyond the city, the blue expanse of the sea, stretching forever. She feels a sense of wonder so profound it fills her entire being. Everything is beautiful. Everything is connected. Everything makes sense in a way she can't quite express. And then, gently, slowly, she begins to descend, floating back down like a leaf falling from a tree, back to the garden, back to her parents' arms. She feels her mother lifting her, holding her close. She feels herself being carried, being tucked into bed, a blanket pulled up to her chin, and she drifts deeper into sleep, beyond dreams now, into a place of complete peace and rest, a darkness that's not frightening but comforting, like being held, like being home. The first birds. The night is ending now. The darkness is beginning almost imperceptibly to thin. The sky over the sea in the east is no longer quite black. It's become the deepest, darkest blue instead. The stars are still visible, but they seem fainter now, less bright, beginning to fade. One by one, they wink out. First the faintest ones, then the medium ones, until only the very brightest remain. The moon has set, disappearing below the western horizon. Its work for the night is done. A lone sparrow perched on a rooftop somewhere in the city. Its song is clear and pure in the still air. A series of chirps and trills announcing the coming dawn. Then another bird answers from a different rooftop. And another, and another. Within minutes, the air is filled with birdsong, a chorus of voices welcoming the new day. Sparrows and starlings and finches, each singing its own song, all blending together into a symphony. In the bakery, Gaius stirs. His eyes open. For a moment he lies still, listening to the birds. Then, as he does every morning, he rises, quietly, carefully, so as not to wake Livia and Claudia. He pulls on his tunic, ties his belt, pushes his feet into his worn sandals. He walks through the dark house to the bakery in front, to the oven that's been his livelihood for 30 years. He opens the iron door and checks the coals inside. Still warm, still alive. Good. He adds a few sticks of dry wood, carefully arranged, blows gently on the coals until tiny flames appear, feeds the flames with more wood. Soon, the fire is burning strong again. Soon, the oven will be hot enough for baking. Soon, the smell of fresh bread will fill the street, and the day's work will begin. But for now, there's just the quiet crackle of the fire, the soft chirping of birds greeting the dawn, and the first very faint lightening of the sky. On the beach, Titus has been fishing for hours. His nets have been kind to him tonight. Several good-sized fish already lie in the bottom of his boat. Mullet, their scales gleaming silver in the moonlight. A few mackerel, even a small snapper, rare and valuable. As the sky begins to lighten, he makes the decision to return. He pulls in his nets one last time, coiling them carefully in the boat. Then he takes up the oars and begins the row back to shore. The water is still calm, glassy smooth. Each stroke of the oars creates perfect ripples that spread outward in expanding circles. The sky is changing moment by moment now, from deep blue to lighter blue, from black to gray to the first hints of pink and gold. By the time Titus's boat reaches the shore, the eastern sky is painted in shades of rose and saffron and amber. He drags the boat onto the sand, gathers his catch, begins the walk to the forum, where he'll sell the fish at the morning market. In the grand villas, in the modest homes, in the workshops and temples, Pompeii is beginning to wake. Servants are rising, lighting fires, preparing for the day. Children are stirring in their beds, not yet fully awake but moving toward consciousness. The city is taking its first breath of a new day. But in the garden of the house of the Vedii, in the small garden of the tragic poet's house, in the peristyle of the house of the faun, dawn is arriving in beauty. The first rays of sunlight are touching the tops of the trees. Leaves that were dark are suddenly bright green, glowing. Flowers that closed their petals for the night are beginning to open again, roses unfurling, jasmine stretching toward the light. The fountains, which have trickled all night, now sparkle in the growing light, water droplets catching the sun, turning into tiny diamonds. Birds are flying from tree to tree, from roof to roof, busy with the morning's work of finding food, defending territories, caring for young. The city is beautiful in this light, golden, peaceful, timeless. For just a moment, Pompeii seems eternal, as if it could go on like this forever, waking and sleeping, working and resting, living, letting go. But we're not going to follow the day. We're not going to witness what happens next. Our story ends here, in these quiet moments of dawn, in the space between night and day, between sleep and waking, between past and future. Because tonight, our goal was never to tell a story of destruction. Our goal was to remember the life, to honor the people who lived in Pompeii, who loved and worked and dreamed and hoped, who were as real as you and me. For one night, we walked beside them through their streets. We entered their homes. We sat in their gardens. We shared their peace. And now, it's time to let it all go. You've traveled far tonight, back through nearly 2,000 years, through the streets of an ancient city, into lives long ended. You've seen the villas and the workshops, the temples and the gardens, the rich and the poor, the young and the old. You've felt the warmth of the evening, the cool of the night, the first light of dawn. But now, you don't need to hold on to any of it. Let the images fade like dreams fading in morning light. Let the story drift away like smoke dissolving into air. Let Pompeii return to the past where it belongs. Feel your body now, here in your own bed, in your own time, in your own place. Feel the weight of your blankets covering you, the softness of your pillow supporting your head, the comfort of your mattress beneath you. Your breathing is slow now, steady, deep, easy. Each breath carries you further into relaxation, further into peace, further into sleep. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to think about, nothing you need to remember, just rest. Let sleep come naturally, gently, inevitably, like a wave rolling onto a shore, like night falling, like stars appearing in a darkening sky. You are safe, you are comfortable, you are exactly where you need to be. Let go completely now. Let go of the day, let go of tomorrow, let go of everything. Just drift deeper and deeper into sleep.